Why not just jump back into mental models versus what you're doing now?
I've actually never really spoken about this publicly, but basically one day my bro came to me and he was like, hey, and this is pre-COVID, right? He's like, hey, we should do a podcast or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I love talking about jiu-jitsu. I actually love public speaking. Like, a lot of the writing that you see on the BJJ Mental Models database, a lot of the concepts and whatever are me. And I contributed a lot to that show. Steve was really good at he's a software engineer. The guy is amazing with computers. He has taken that podcast to really impressive levels. Steve's well known in the community. He's done a lot to push that podcast and I respect him a lot. But there was a time when it was just the two of us in my parents' closet huddling around this microphone like this so that we could both be heard, right? It was a passion project for me. Once it got off the ground, he took it in directions where it wasn't directions that I wanted to take the show, but I was in a situation where I didn't have any control because he was doing all the marketing. He's doing all the editing, all the recording. He's doing all the work. Let's be honest. He deserved the success that he had with that show and that he does enjoy today. Did I help him get it off the ground with like my jiu-jitsu knowledge? Yes. But there came a time where it was moving in a direction and I didn't have any control. You know, he was interviewing me. I think I got like a good 100 episodes in with him, you know, it was fun. And then we had some disagreements around the COVID time. And that's where I think a lot of people had disagreements. There's people in my life that won't talk to me anymore because of COVID, because I was very outspoken about it. Very much, you know, anyone who followed my Instagram around that time was like, dude, you're loud, right? And again, maybe that's me and my ego. But there were things that I was saying that politically I didn't line up with my brother. And the show was getting pushed in a direction where it was primarily becoming an interview show. I wanted a show where we kind of discuss topics, me and him. It's a very heavily edited show. It's a real conversation, but like I said, if there's any breaks in the train of thought, if there's it gets edited out, things like that. And for me, I wanted more of like a raw conversation. I also wanted to go into topics that could be uncomfortable because I think people want to hear shit like that. But there were times when I would be talking about it and he's like, we got to cut this out. Like, we can't talk about this. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like, and I just didn't have enough creative freedom, I think, to really make me want to stay there. Okay. And I always wanted a podcast of my own. Once that ended, there was a couple of years where, of course, COVID happened. And there was a couple of years where I was focusing on my gym and whatnot. And, you know, I got 2 kids and things like that. And I just didn't have the time to start my own show. But it was always kind of a plan for me to have a show one day. I just needed to get that initial startup, which I've now got behind me. So I've gotten into a rhythm now and I'm doing this show on my own. I can say what I want. It's a raw conversation. I don't cut shit out. And eventually my goal was to eventually have a show where people can call in. That's actually what I really wanted. I wanted to have like a radio show about jiu-jitsu. I just need to have enough traction. People want to call in and do that. And I will do something like that one day.
That's gutsy.
Why?
If anyone can pull it off, it's you. Because I remember jumping on I think it was a Facebook Live thing with you and Steve at the time. And you guys were fielding live. This is early on when you guys were sort of testing the live thing and you guys were doing it via Facebook. And it was both you guys and this little shitty webcam and you're in this room and we're asking a bunch of stupid jiu-jitsu questions and you guys are like showing positions and stuff, trying to show positions. It was fantastic. I loved it.
You were there? I think there was like 3 people there.
Yeah, I was one of the 3. Dude, when I said I was a stalker, I was like literally, I am literally
Thanks
a Kwan
for the help, bro.
Stalker,
I appreciate it.
But it was fascinating to see your growth now, what you're doing and how it's evolved, the technology and everything that you're doing. And with your show, I see that you're doing all kinds of stuff. It's kind of wild because you're covering like history of jiu-jitsu sort of stuff. And then you're also like talking technique, and then you're talking about like the business, like kids programs.
It's whatever I want to talk about. It's great. And that's the thing with my show. Sometimes I want to talk Kimuras. Sometimes I want to talk about my autoimmune journey, which has nothing to really do about jiu-jitsu if you think about it. Sometimes I want to talk about how I help my kids get ready. Sometimes I want to talk about the history of jiu-jitsu and do like a mini series on that. I can do whatever I want, which is in terms of BJJ Mental Models, you know, like I'm so proud of my bro for what he's done. And like, even though we disagree, we have a great relationship. He actually helps me a lot with my website and with the podcast and things like that. But the truth is that we are both individuals who need the control. I can't have someone else controlling a project that I'm dedicating time to. And I just know that about myself. That's like me getting someone else to run my school. I can't do that. I need the control. And again, maybe that's my ego, or maybe that's me just being like obsessed with getting my ideas out and running it the way that I want to do it. But that's the thing. When you're an entrepreneur, that's what you got to do, right? So I think it's just like the clash of two, I don't want to use the word alphas, but like maybe two leaders or two entrepreneurs who both want the control. And it just, at the end of the day, too many cooks in the proverbial kitchen.